Hello, church, and hello, community. We're so glad to be back with you this week. And I want to start off by asking you a question. What does it mean to follow Jesus? Let me share with you a few verses out of the Gospel of Mark, chapter 1. As Jesus was going along by the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and Andrew, the brother of Simon, casting a net in the sea, for they were fishermen. And Jesus said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you become fishers of men." Immediately they left their nets and followed him. And going on a little farther, he saw James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, who were also in the boat mending the nets. Immediately he called them, and they left their father Zebedee in the boat with the hired servants and went away to follow him. Well, for those four first early disciples, there were really two things that it meant for them to follow Jesus, and it's the same for us. That is, we saw with Peter and Andrew that they followed Jesus immediately. And with James and John, we read that they followed Jesus completely. They followed Jesus totally. And if you're watching this today and maybe you haven't made that initial decision to follow Jesus, I would encourage you to do so. And when you hear Jesus calling for you to follow him, make sure that you don't delay. Make sure you don't push that decision off, because we're all responsible to decide what we will do with Jesus. And when you hear that call, make sure that you don't ignore that. Immediately follow him. Listen to what he is calling you to do and coming after him, but also do it completely, leaving behind anything that's going to pull you away from God, that's going to pull you in the direction that you don't want to continue to go in, but you want to leave that behind so you can follow Jesus completely. As we were talking about following earlier, sometimes God does lead us to places that we don't necessarily want to be, or maybe we find ourselves in a position that we wonder why we're there. But I know that you'd had a few thoughts on that.
I did, and I forgot my Bible. And it's right there, so I'm going to grab it. Sorry. Yeah, so this morning I woke up and I was trying to think about what I wanted to share and some of the things that we had discussed yesterday, but my mind was really dark and clouded, and I was about to say, Jeff, you should just do this one by yourself. But I opened my Bible and I started reading in Mark 15:33 through 34. And this is when Jesus is crucified. And it reads, "When it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And at 3, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And this really touched me this morning, because I knew that sudden darkness came over at noon. Imagine it's suddenly midnight for 3 straight hours. But I didn't realize that Jesus hung in the darkness for 3 hours in agony for us. You know, we all struggle with moments of darkness, whether it's some sin in our life, decisions we make, possibly depression, that can take us to a depth where no one can reach us. There are places we can go in our lives where we make it really impossible for others to come and minister to us and meet with us there. But Jesus, who experienced everything that we've suffered, everything that we experience, he's able to sympathize with us in those moments of darkness, because he hung in darkness for 3 hours. And then it didn't end there. At 3 p.m., when Jesus gave up his spirit, there's a second supernatural event that takes place. Mark 15:37-38. "But Jesus let out a loud cry and breathed his last. Then the curtain of the sanctuary was split in two from top to bottom." It wasn't a human being who went and grabbed the bottom of the curtain and ripped it open. This was from God. And fascinating. I asked Jeff yesterday, I said, the ripping of the curtain, was that the same Greek word when, like we discussed last week, when the heavens were torn open and that veil between heaven and earth was opened and God's voice boomed, "You are my beloved son. I take delight in you." This is the same word, this same Greek word. It's schizo. When God said, "My presence will no longer be hidden behind a curtain, Now, what my beloved Son has done, my presence is now available to all. And it was in that moment when God turned his back on Jesus. I also often thought about just his turning his back on Jesus, but he turned toward his perfect plan. God's face turned toward all who would believe in Jesus as the way to reconcile and come back into fellowship and harmony with God Almighty, who loved you so much that he thought of you and created you. That is awesome.
That is awesome. And I hope that you have made that decision to follow Jesus, to allow him to lead you into the presence of God. But for those of us who have made that choice, who are followers of Jesus, that call to follow me, it comes over and over again. And every time it's really the same two things that we need to keep in mind. When Jesus asks us to do something and following him, we need to be immediate in our obedience. I believe it was Elizabeth Elliot that said, delayed obedience is disobedience. So let's make sure that we are following right behind Jesus where he is leading. And also let's be complete in our obedience. James and John, they left behind their father sitting in the boat, their family business, and I'm sure that didn't sit real well with their father. It's not that they were disrespecting him, but now they were following a higher authority. And so there are things that we'll have to leave behind on a continual basis, even as we follow Jesus more closely. And that's where we want to be. We want to be right there walking with them. And so we do hope you have a great day
Yes.
and a great week to come. And God bless you.